as we go further and further in time, we get all these new technological innovations coming into our lives, whether it's on your phone or your computer or your smart home, whatever it is. All these things promise us better quality of life, more happiness, less stress, more ease of everyday living. But funnily enough, I don't know anybody who says that they're less stressed than they were 5 or 10 years ago. The sources of external stress coming at us seem to just be increasing, and it seems like kind of a one-way road. So the only thing we can do in this situation, unless you're prepared to get rid of all your technology and go live back out in nature, which is right. It's easier said than done as well. And unless you're ready to make some radical escape from the modern world, you have to think about how are you going to increase your stress resilience.
Welcome to another episode of the Matter Over Mind Experience. I'm your host, Master Trainer, and Weight Management Expert, Narado Zeco Powell. And who do I have today? No other than Sage Dammers. And you know what we're going to talk about? Superfoods. And not just any superfoods. We're going to talk about adaptogens. We're going to talk about cacao, some of the most important some of the most important foods for long-term health that also has many wonderful benefits and nutrients. So you really want to stick around for this episode if you're thinking about how to add foods to your life that can lengthen your life, give you more energy, improve cognition, and so much more. In fact, see, he's the founder of Adaptive Wellness, which specializes in guilt-free. You like the word guilt-free, right? You don't want to eat that chocolate and be like, oh my gosh, I got to go work out again. I feel awful. No, I just ruined myself. No. Guilt-free raw chocolates with premium superfoods and herbs. And they taste amazing. I mean, he sent me some. I mean, they taste amazing. I mean, really do. He said they're free from sugar. And you know how sugar is the new drug, they say, right? And it really is. I mean, dairy, soy, and GMOs. That's the bad word that my little niece and nephews not allowed to say. We don't say GMOs around here. Nuts and providing unique health benefits. So we have a lot to talk about. And with that said, Shade Roman, welcome to the show.
Zeco, thank you so much for having me on. I am so grateful for that amazing introduction. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
You too, my friend. And with that being said, let's dive deep. You know, I like to get it going from jump, right? So tell us, what are adaptogens and what are superfoods?
Well, let's start with the superfoods first, because it's a little bit of a wider category. This is something where a term used to have a deep and powerful meaning to it that inspired people and took people to a new place in their health. But that word has now been used to mean so many other things. These days, it's hard to walk down the aisle of a health food store without seeing just about anything that comes from a plant source being called a superfood. So it's a little bit something that's lost its meaning in the more mainstream health world. But if we go back to when I first encountered the term superfood, it was when I was in my late teens. And I heard the term superfood, and I thought, well, what is this? What does that mean? Have I not been eating the best foods? Did I not realize that there was other stuff out there that could give me more energy and help me perform better in life? And in fact, it represented this class of foods that existed somewhere in between medicinal herbs and normal food. And these bring together not only some of the most concentrated sources of nutrition in the world, but also more interesting and exotic compounds with potential deeper health benefits. And my great passion in many ways is chocolate and cacao. And this is a perfect example because with cacao, you have the highest natural source of antioxidants, the highest natural source of magnesium, which is the number one mineral that people in the West are chronically deficient in, between 60 to 80% of people. And then you're checking a lot of these boxes in terms of big nutrients, and you get into being a great source of chromium and zinc and iron and some of these micronutrients. But it goes further. It goes into more exotic compounds, things like phenethylamine, which is known as the love bliss chemical, because it's what gets secreted in your brain when you're in love. Or you have anandamide, also known as the bliss chemical, because it is creating a euphoric experience in the body. And then from there, you also have great prebiotic fibers that feed the beneficial bacteria in your gut. So there's so much going on here. And the list just goes on and on in terms of also being a great delivery vehicle for other herbs with it, because it's a vasodilator and an MAO inhibitor. So what that means is when you take other ingredients with cacao, they're going to absorb better and they're going to stay in your system and keep working for longer. The vasodilator part, that's what gets them absorbing well. Then the MAO inhibitor is interesting because MAO is monoamine oxidase. And this is something, it's like the bouncer in a club. When substances come into your body, they're hanging out, partying for a while, and then the MAO comes over as the bouncer, says, okay, guys, we're closing. It's time for you to go home, take the party back to your house. But if you have an MAO inhibitor like cacao, it basically is the cool bouncer that's going to come over to the original bouncer and say, no, these guys are cool. They're friendly. They're, friends of the owners. They're helping to clean up afterwards. They're not making a mess. Let them hang around for a bit longer. They're good guys. And so that toxic ingredients maybe that you're consuming with chocolate in one sense could hang around, maybe not so good. But if you're consuming some of the world's most beneficial other compounds with the chocolate, now you have something that is magnifying their effect. You also get into other superfoods like bee pollen and aloe vera, and even some algae like spirulina and chlorella. Irish sea moss would be a great example of a superfood, bringing incredible nutrient density and gut healing capabilities to it. And so this is an amazing category of foods that really launched me on my own journey into the health world, because I realized that I had been only performing at a fraction of my potential all these years because I didn't have the nutritional inputs that I could potentially have. And I, of course, wanted to start sharing this with everybody around me as soon as I could, but it was hard at first because I didn't know how to make these things taste good. They made me feel amazing, so I was dedicated to consuming them every single day because I wanted to feel that, and I didn't care how bad it tasted. I would make a smoothie and would stick a straw all the way to the back of my throat just to not taste it, but to be able to drink this thing down and feel amazing all day. But my friends weren't ready for that. So I realized I'm going to have to figure out a way to make these eventually taste super good and easy for people to use every single day. And on that journey, I also came across this category of herbal compounds known as adaptogens. And this is an elite class of herbs. It's like the Navy SEALs of the herbal world. We're not talking about just like regular ginger and basil and peppermint and things like that. Those certainly have benefits, but they're not in this elite category. Just like regular foods are not quite going to, things like spinach and kale, no matter how much Whole Foods wants to call them superfoods, they're not in the class or in the league of cacao and spirulina and chlorella and camu berry and things like that. So with adaptogens, the idea here is that they are strengthening your body's self-regulatory mechanisms. Your body has built-in systems to keep it in balance. That if you're getting too hot, it cools it down. If you're getting too cold, you shiver and you warm up. These are examples of self-regulatory mechanisms. Or various other things happen with your immune system and in other ways. The idea with adaptogens is to strengthen these self-regulatory mechanisms of your body. It's not just going to stimulate your immune system. It's not just going to suppress your immune system. It's going to help your body find the correct balance of immune activity. Similarly, if you take an adaptogen like reishi in the morning, it's great. It's going to improve your oxygen utilization. Does that mean you shouldn't take it before bed for it will keep you up? No, it's actually amazing because it's going to decrease your stress and anxiety. And so it's not a sedative. It's just helping you feel more peaceful. And that's going to help you whether it's in the morning or in the evening. It's always good to feel peace inside yourself. And then you have something like astragalus, great energy tonic, but you can also have it later in the day. Or gynostema it's a leafy vine that's been consumed for a long time as a tea in southern China. And it helps burn more fat, improve energy production, but also make you feel less stressed, helps to balance overall immune function. And that's the idea here, is these are not herbs that you take for a short period of time to correct an imbalance, although they can help in that regard. These are more designed to be taken in small amounts daily over the long term, over the course of your life, to build a deep foundation of health and resilience to where you are always feeling great. Your body's working in a balanced way as it should, and different external stressors that come at you aren't going to overwhelm your system.
I love that because you, especially towards the end where you explained that it's not something we should take to feel like to just not for the moment, right? Because a lot of times we're stuck in this culture now where we think, what's good for this, what's good for that. We want to take it for a time period, make it feel better. But we need to understand that these are lifestyle changes, and we have to take it very seriously, because as we start adding these adaptogens and superfoods into our lives to start feeling better, but more importantly, because almost anything can help you to feel better, you start to operate on a level that you never operated on before. And once you operate on that level, you cannot go back to that level. I like when you said in the beginning, they tasted so disgusting that you would put a straw towards the back of your throat, right? So you wouldn't have to taste it, because you were addicted to feeling good and feeling amazing. You didn't want to go back to that, right? So with somebody hearing this then, and all the important information you've just told us, what do you think would be the roles of adaptogens and superfoods in holistic health?
As we go further and further in time, we get all these new technological innovations coming into our lives, whether it's on your phone or your computer or your smart home, whatever it is. All these things promise us better quality of life, more happiness, less stress, more ease of everyday living. But funnily enough, I don't know anybody who says that they're less stressed than they were 5 or 10 years ago. The sources of external stress coming at us seem to just be increasing, and it seems like kind of a one-way road. So the only thing we can do in this situation, unless you're prepared to get rid of all your technology and go live back out in nature, which is right, it's easier said than done as well. And unless you're ready to make some radical escape from the modern world, you have to think about, how are you going to increase your stress resilience? How are you going to send your roots deeper into the earth as a tree, to use that metaphor, so that when the really crazy winds come, you're not going to get blown over by the lightest breeze, and that you can sway this way, sway that way, and kind of move with that wind, but it's not going to knock you over. Or if you think about yourself as a house, you're building a foundation that's strong, and so that when a little earthquake rumble comes, you're not going to crumble, and that you might bend a little this way, bend a little that way, but you're not going down. You can handle it. And so that's the idea with these adaptogens, is they are strengthening your body's own self-regulatory mechanisms and building that stress resilience. So as we go into this modern world where we're increasingly hit by stressors, and this is not just emotional stress or kind of the fight or flight that the constant notifications popping up on your phone is about, but we're also hit with immune stressors. We're also hit with exposure to toxicity. And what a lot of these herbs do as well is they improve and support your body's natural self-detoxification pathways. For example, you have an herb like reishi mushroom, as we mentioned a moment ago, great for stress and anxiety and energy production, but it's also supporting liver detoxification. Another great example is schizandra berry. And this is one that people think of as a beauty herb because it has such great benefits for skin health, but it's a stage 1 and stage 2 liver detox supporter. So it's really helping your body get rid of these. And you hear some people say, oh, the body has the liver, it has the kidneys, it has everything it needs to detox on its own. You don't have to do anything to support detox. But the problem is that applies maybe if you were living in that pure, original, natural setting. We're not. We're exposed to the kinds of toxins that evolutionarily we never had to deal with. We're living in a radical new world in that regard. So there is nothing wrong with using natural compounds to support your body's detoxification pathways when they're more burdened now than they ever have been before. So I think having these adaptogens is helping you deal with all these external stressors. And then superfoods, I think of almost as a way of taking supplements for a nutrient deficient diet, but in a food form. So it's more holistic, it's more natural, more easily and naturally received by your body. Because especially in America, I think this is true, that the nutrients in food are not what they used to be. You can look at studies where they look at the levels of vitamins and minerals in something like a tomato, and it's a scary small fraction of what it was 60 or 70 years ago, and probably even more extreme if you were to go back to test a tomato before the Dust Bowl era. So we're not getting, even if the food looks just the same as it used to on the shelf, the actual nutrition in there is not necessarily what it used to be. So having these ultra nutrient dense foods, to me, is a great kind of insurance policy to make sure that you're really getting everything you need, regardless of what may be happening with the mainstream food supply.
And something to add to that, when we talk about the detox to support what you're saying, when we think about the water that we drink now and the pollution in the water, I mean, the filters that we get, they don't really do much. I mean, there are ways you can ultra filter your water, but even most filters don't filter anywhere close to where it's supposed to be. Wi-Fi. I mean, that's something else that our body had to do, another stressor that our body didn't have to deal with, all those years ago. So our bodies are not designed to run in the environment that it is today, which is why we have more inflammation, more oxidative stress, because the stressors that Sage is talking about is not just external stress. We're talking about what's happening inside of your body. And just about any health expert, any doctor, any nurse can tell you that diseases are linked to chronic inflammation and oxidative stress, right? So by naturally supporting what your body is able to do, you're giving it a boost, right, which is very beneficial. And that's why food, nutrition, and lifestyle changes, what we call epigenetics, are extremely important. And with that being said, I'm going to give my man Sage here a break because I want to talk about one of my favorite companies. I want to talk about the Amino Co. That's where I'm going to go, right? See, they have 100% science-backed essential amino acid formulation designed to reduce recovery times and improve physical function by accelerating muscle repair by helping you maintain a healthy what? Inflammatory response. That's what we've been talking about, right? Because I'm talking about Heal, one of my favorite products, and it's products I drink just about every day. Their EAA is so amazing. Not just branched chain. No, we're talking about essential amino that your body needs, along with creatine. And let me tell you, if you put a gun to my head and say, what one supplement you have to take the rest of your life, I'm taking creatine. So they make sure they add creatine into their formulation and whey protein concentrate that your body can use just about immediately to help you to recover. I was talking to my friends today, and he was like, I don't know if I'm getting older, but I just can't recover. And I said, it's your nutrition. It's your diet. And Heal is one of those things you need to add to your diet to help you. You eat chicken. What does it break down to? Essential aminos, and it has creatine. But now the Heal has it in a special formulation designed by Dr. Robert Wolf, that's been shown to help you to recover. In fact, with the Amino Co, their products were designed for NASA and then refined for normal human beings like you and I, even though I may not always consider myself normal, but that's a different conversation. But yeah, their products are fantastic. And also, I'll make sure that the link to their website is in the description of the podcast. It's aminoco.com/Zeco Health, which gets you 30% off their fantastic products. So when you click on the link, you see this beautiful space just smiling at you, and you get a 30% discount. I mean, that's like the best of both worlds. I'm telling you, baby, the best of both worlds. But with that being said, we have more to talk about the adaptogen. So let's get back to the main deal here why we're here. So let's talk about your knowledge, Sage. You have a lot of knowledge, and I'm sure there's a lot more coming down the pipeline. And you put together all these different foods, right? And I see that even you have some that are better from cognition, some are better for sleep. So on, all the different health benefits. So all this knowledge that you attain, how did they help you to put together and formulate all these different superfoods and adapt?
Well, the key thing for me is that I realized I don't care what things taste like. If it makes me feel good, I will do it. It could taste like absolute dirt, but if it makes me feel incredible, I'm on it. However, I realized pretty quickly that doesn't apply to 99.9% of the population. So I realized if I am going to have any beneficial impact beyond just taking my own health to maximum levels, I'm going to have to figure out a way, not just to make these taste okay, but to make the most powerful ingredients in the world taste so good that people will want to have it simply because it tastes amazing and it's an epic food experience, and it just so happens to be really healthy as an afterthought. And I came across cacao, and it kind of was very curious to me because this is something that kind of has a foot in both worlds. One world being the world of foods that are delicious, but everybody knows they're not that great for you. And in the other world where it's not very good tasting, but it's health food. And people think it's going to be one or the other. Either it's healthy and it tastes bad, or it's not healthy and it tastes great. Chocolate kind of can exist in both worlds, and it just depends on how you make it. You could make it the mainstream processed food way, and yeah, it's going to taste maybe okay, and it's going to not be very good for you. Or you could make it in an incredible, super healthy way, and if done just right, it could taste amazing and be this bridge between those two worlds. So I saw it as kind of the gateway health food. And so I used that as the initial delivery vehicle to people for these herbal ingredients that I'm so passionate about. And I also love helping people find ways to enjoy these herbs on their own, whether that is finding an herb like astragalus or gynostema that actually on its own, just in hot water, tastes delicious. Some of these are really beginner friendly, whereas maybe something like shilajit is a mineral pitch that gets secreted out of the mountains in the Himalayas. This one has a pretty aggressive flavor, and you have to be very selective about what you combine it with, because it will just dominate the entire dish or whatever you're making. And then I also like people to be able to enjoy these in drinks. So we have a whole line that we make of elixir blends where you just add hot water or almond milk or coconut milk, something like that, and it blends up into a delicious, creamy herbal drink. And so we have it in hot chocolate and caramel and chai and matcha. And I kind of would go back as I was formulating these into early memories, early like romantic memories in my life of my best hot chocolate memories from childhood. Or I grew up in a home that was a meditation center. And every Thursday night, the whole group of people would come over for chanting Sanskrit mantras and meditation and spiritual talks. And after, they would make this big pot of chai. And I actually had never consumed very much chai before designing our chai drink, but I could go back in my memory to my childhood to the way that chai would smell coming out of the kitchen. And I tried to make it exactly like that. And people have seemed to have really enjoyed it. So somehow that technique has worked. Or like for the hot chocolate, I would think back to my childhood when I would go skiing with my dad. And at the end of the day, my fingers would be so frozen, I couldn't even, you really use them, but would come into the lodge afterwards and get a mug of hot chocolate. And I would wrap my fingers around it because it would be warming them up, and I couldn't drink it yet anyways because it was too hot to drink, but I would just be smelling it, and then start to drink it, and it just warms your soul from the inside out. So I go back in my memory to like the most epic experiences I've had with these things, with chocolate, with, all these different kind of drink flavors. And I try to just recreate that in the absolute healthiest way without putting any sugar in it, so that there's not that ceiling on how much of it you can consume. Because even with, many healthy chocolates out there, they could be using really pure ingredients. But even if you're using a healthier sweetener like a coconut palm sugar or maple sugar, it's only a matter of time before you hit a certain point where it's like, okay, that's too much sugar. I need to back off here. I'm going overboard. Whereas if you can do it sugar-free, as we do, with a combination of monk fruit sweetener and organic allulose, which are not going to impact your blood sugar, you kind of remove that ceiling so you can enjoy more chocolate and get even more of the benefits from that incredible wild-grown jungle harvested cacao that we use. And you don't have to think, oh, am I having too much sugar? No, you can just have a great time and don't worry about it.
I love it. I love you have all this knowledge, and you put a lot of thought, a lot of research, and you've worked with some great people to put this all together. And that's amazing. And I'm glad you're on the show and everything that we discussed. And there's so much. If we are really unpack all the stuff we could unpack, we'll be here pretty much all night. So Sage, with all the information you've provided, please talk to my audience, let them know how can they reach out to you and learn more about your work, may even purchase your products, so on.
As Zeco mentioned, everybody, thank you for joining us, first of all. And this is really just the tip of the iceberg of a area of topics that I'm so passionate about sharing. So if you'd like to learn more, please check out any of our social media, Instagram, Facebook. YouTube is where we share the most long-form information, going really deep diving into all of these topics. You can just search Addictive Wellness on any of those platforms. And then also you can check out our website, addictivewellness.com, where we have these chocolates that we've been chatting about, these drink mixes and individual eat ingredients from cacao powder to astragalus, cordyceps, reishi mushroom, all these adaptogens that you've heard us talking about. So if you want to have an experience for yourself and see what it is exactly that's getting me so excited over here, I would love for you to check it out.
Perfect. And with that being said, the information will be in the show notes. Show notes will be zecohealth.com/addictive wellness. I'm not the most creative person in the world, so that's where I was going. But for the show notes, there will be in the description of the podcast. So of course you can click on there. You can connect their YouTube, so you can go to their YouTube. I'll put the website there as well, so you can learn more and get some fantastic products, delicious, guilt-free, sugar-free products that are great for your health. And when you start performing at a whole different level that you didn't even know existed, you can thank us both. And with that being said, Sage, thank you for being on the show. Enjoy the rest of your day, fam.